The forests of the United Kingdom hold secrets that stretch back centuries. Ancient trees stand as silent witnesses to untold horrors. Disappearances without a trace, spectral figures lurking in the mist, and voices that call from the darkness when no one is there. Some of these places have been feared for generations. Stories passed down through time speak of restless spirits, eerie lights, and curses that refuse to be forgotten. Those who enter often feel watched, as if something unseen moves between the trees, waiting. Tonight, we explore the 15 most haunted forests in the United Kingdom. Real encounters, chilling folklore, and the terrifying mysteries that continue to unfold. If you have the courage, stay with us till the end. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications, because what you're about to hear may just make you think twice before stepping into the woods alone. Haunted Forest Number 1, During Woods, Kent. Tucked away on the outskirts of Pluckley, Kent, lies a stretch of woodland known as During Woods, but most people know it by a far more ominous name. The Screaming Woods. By daylight, it's a quiet, unassuming forest. But when darkness falls, the silence is shattered by blood-curdling screams that echo through the trees. Some say they belong to the restless dead. Others believe they are warnings meant to keep the living away. In 1948, authorities uncovered a grim mystery. 20 bodies lying deep within the woods, their cause of death unknown. No struggle, no wounds, no explanation. The case was left unsolved, but the legends only grew darker. Locals whisper of eerie disappearances, of those who stepped into the woods and never returned. Some claim the spirits belong to villagers lost centuries ago, their tortured souls forever trapped beneath the tangled branches. Others speak of a sinister force, something that watches, something that waits. Even today, visitors report screaming voices tearing through the night, shadowy figures lurking just beyond sight, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Some hear whispers calling their names, a soft, urgent plea to leave before it's too late. Those who ignore the warnings often speak of an unseen force breathing down their necks, of an icy grip around their wrists, of something moving in the darkness, just out of reach. Some say the dead in During Woods are calling out for help. Others believe they are luring victims to share their fate. The question is, would you dare to listen? Haunted Forest Number 2, Epping Forest, Essex. For centuries, Epping Forest has been a place of secrecy, shadows, and silent watches. Spanning nearly 6,000 acres, its dense, twisting pathways have concealed everything from outlaws to unmarked graves. But one name haunts these woods more than any other: Dick Turpin. In the 18th century, Turpin and his gang ruled these roads, robbing travelers under the cover of darkness. He was ruthless, feared, and hunted, but it was betrayal that sealed his fate. Captured and hanged in York, his body was buried far from the forest he once called home. But death, it seems, did not end his reign. Visitors tell of a riderless black horse, hooves thundering through the undergrowth. Others have glimpsed a shadowy figure, his coat whipping in the wind, vanishing before their eyes. Some even claim to hear his voice, a cold whisper drifting through the trees. Keep riding, or pay the price. Beyond the ghostly horsemen, Hangman's Hill holds an eerie mystery of its own. Stop your car at the base, and it will roll uphill, on its own. Some believe it's an illusion. Others insist an unseen force is pulling you towards something, or someone. Strange lights flicker among the trees. Disembodied whispers rise from the undergrowth. An oppressive weight lingers in the air, as if the forest itself is watching, waiting. They say Turpin never left these woods. The question is, are you bold enough to prove them wrong? Haunted Forest Number 3, Pembrey Woods, Wales. Some forests whisper forgotten stories. Others scream them. Deep in Wales, on the southern coast, Pembrey Woods stands shrouded in mist. For centuries, it has been a place of mystery, a refuge for smugglers, a graveyard for lost souls. But in the 1940s, something else took root in these woods, something that still lingers today. During World War II, Pembrey Woods lay beneath a flight path used by British and American airmen. Not all of them made it home. Many pilots crashed in these very trees, some lost in dense fog, others shot down by enemy fire. Those who perished left behind more than just wreckage. Their spirits never left. Hikers have reported ghostly figures in RAF uniforms wandering through the undergrowth, their faces obscured by darkness. Some vanish the moment they are seen. Others remain, watching. Then, there are the voices. Late at night, desperate pleas for help echo through the trees. Panicked, visitors rush toward the sound, expecting to find a lost soul in need. But when they arrive, no one is there. Even more unsettling, those who answer the calls often report an icy hand brushing against their skin, as if someone, reaches out from the beyond. The wreckage may be long gone, but the airmen remain. Trapped between life and death, they still patrol the woods, waiting for a rescue that will never come. But the hauntings only get darker from here. And next, we step into a forest where the dead do not just whisper, they hunt. Haunted Forest Number 4, Wistman's Wood, Devon. Some forests whisper, others watch. But this one? It hunts. Deep in Devon's Dartmoor National Park, a place exists where time stands still. Wistman's Wood, an ancient grove, its gnarled trees twisted into unnatural shapes, their moss-covered limbs reaching like skeletal fingers. This forest is one of the last remnants of a primeval world, and according to legend, something has been lurking here for centuries. For generations, locals have whispered about the wished hounds, phantom black dogs said to prowl the moor. Folklore claims they were summoned by the devil himself, red-eyed beasts with razor-sharp fangs, hunting lost travelers under the cover of darkness. Even today, the stories persist. Hikers tell of glowing eyes watching them from the undergrowth, only to vanish when approached. Some wake in the dead of night to the sound of deep, ragged breathing just outside their tents. One camper, spending the night in the woods, awoke to heavy footsteps circling his tent. He held his breath, heart pounding. Then, from the darkness, came the unmistakable sound of claws scraping against the fabric. Summoning his courage, he unzipped the tent, but the clearing was empty. No footprints, no signs of life, only the overwhelming stench of wet fur lingering in the air. Locals say those who see the hounds are marked, their fate sealed. Some never speak of their encounters. Others are never seen again. And the deeper you go into Wistman's Wood, the more you realize you're not the one doing the hunting. But the horrors don't end here. Next, we travel to a forest where the echoes of a brutal past still haunt the living. And this time, the spirits are waiting. Haunted Forest Number 5, Clapham Wood, West Sussex. Some places are haunted by the past, others by something far more deliberate. Tucked away in West Sussex, Clapham Wood appears unremarkable at first glance. A quiet, peaceful forest where sunlight filters through towering oaks. But the deeper you go, the heavier the air becomes. People speak of an unseen presence, watching, following, waiting. For decades, disappearances, eerie sightings, and whispers of the occult have plagued these woods. Some dismiss the stories as legend, but others, they've seen the hooded figures for themselves. During the 1960s and 70s, Clapham Wood became infamous for its connections to dark rituals. Several dogs went missing here, later found lifeless under disturbing circumstances. But it wasn't just animals. Between 1972 and 1981, 4 people vanished without explanation. A retired policeman, a reverend, a local farmer, a missing woman, all found in or near the forest. The official reports gave no cause of death, but whispers of ritualistic sacrifice swept through the town. Those who dare enter the woods after sunset report dark-robed figures standing between the trees, motionless, their faces hidden beneath heavy hoods. Some witnesses claim these figures vanished before their eyes. Others say they were chased, a silent pursuit, branches breaking behind them, unseen hands brushing their shoulders. One group of friends, exploring on a dare, stumbled upon a clearing where the grass was burned in a perfect circle. At its center stood an arrangement of blackened candles, symbols carved into the earth. A chilling realization set in. They were not alone. Investigators have recorded anomalous energy spikes throughout the forest. Cameras malfunction. Electronic devices fail. And then there's the overwhelming dread, a crushing weight in the chest, an urgent need to escape, as if something unseen is pressing against the mind. Even those who scoff at the supernatural can't ignore the feeling. Clapham Wood does not want visitors. But the night is far from over. Our next forest hides a far older, far darker presence. One that refuses to be forgotten. Haunted Forest Number 6, Ballyboley Forest, Northern Ireland. Deep in Northern Ireland, Ballyboley Forest stands as a chilling remnant of a forgotten past. The trees here are ancient, their twisted branches stretching like skeletal fingers toward the sky. But it's not just the eerie silence that unnerves visitors, it's what lies within. For centuries, locals have spoken of strange lights, shadowy figures, and voices that murmur from the depths of the woods. Some believe it's haunted by the spirits of those who once worshipped here. Others insist it's something far older, something that was never human to begin with. Ballyboley Forest was once a druid sacrificial site, a place of ancient rituals where offerings, sometimes human, were made to appease the gods. The trees, they say, have absorbed those screams, and even now, the forest remembers. Hikers report symbols appearing on the bark overnight, intricate carvings that weren't there the day before. By morning, they vanish as if they were never there. Those who have tried to document them find their photos mysteriously corrupted, distorted faces, shadowy figures lurking just beyond the frame. Many who have entered the forest alone describe the same experience. An overwhelming feeling of being watched, the sensation of something moving in the trees, just out of sight. One traveler, taking a shortcut through the woods at dusk, felt the hairs on the back of his neck rise. He turned, expecting to see an animal. Instead, he saw a figure, tall, shrouded, featureless, standing between the trees. When he blinked, it was closer. He ran. But no matter how fast he moved, the footsteps behind him never faltered. Never rushed. Just followed. Some investigators have returned from the forest with deep scratches down their arms and legs, as if something unseen had reached out to stop them from leaving. EVP sessions conducted in the heart of Ballyboley have captured chilling responses. Whispers in an unrecognizable language, voices overlapping, urgent, insistent. And then, the most unsettling of all. Go back. But we're only getting started. The next forest holds a horror even the bravest dare not face alone. Haunted Forest Number 7, Killakee Woods, Dublin. Some creatures lurk in the shadows. Others watch from the darkness. Just outside Dublin, Killakee Woods hides a sinister past, one tied to the infamous Hellfire Club, a secret society rumored to have dabbled in dark rituals, sacrificial offerings, and demonic summoning. But it isn't just old legends that make this forest terrifying. Those who wander too far from the path speak of glowing red eyes, peering from between the trees, following them as they move. Some have heard it, a deep, guttural growl, too low to be human, too intelligent to be an animal. During the 18th century, Killakee House was owned by the Connolly family, and it is here that the Hellfire Club allegedly held their unholy gatherings. Local whispers tell of a monstrous black cat, conjured during one of their rituals, a creature that never died. To this day, visitors report sightings of the beast. Some describe it as the size of a large dog, its fur matted and slick, its eyes burning like embers. Others claim they've seen a shadow moving between the trees, too fast for the eye to follow. And then, there are those who have felt it. One night, a group of hikers set up camp deep in the woods. As the fire crackled, a heavy silence settled over the trees. Then came the first sound, a low, steady breathing, coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. One of them shone a flashlight into the trees. And there, just beyond the glow, two enormous red eyes blinked back. They ran. But as they did, the sound of heavy paws thudded behind them, keeping pace, never falling back. When they reached their car, the last one to jump inside swore he felt something brush against his leg. Paranormal investigators have attempted to capture proof of the creature's existence. Many report equipment malfunctioning the moment they step into the woods, batteries draining instantly, cameras refusing to focus. One investigator claimed to have captured a low, inhuman growl on tape. When he played it back, a second voice whispered beneath it, "Run!" Some believe the black cat is a demon, a guardian of whatever darkness still lingers in the woods. Others claim it's the tortured spirit of a sacrifice gone wrong. But one thing is certain, it's still out there. Watching. Waiting. And what's waiting in the next haunted forest? Something even more disturbing. Haunted Forest Number 8, Wychwood Forest, Oxfordshire. Some spirits whisper. Others weep. Deep in the heart of Oxfordshire, Wychwood Forest was once a royal hunting ground. But today, it is known for something far more chilling. Those who enter its depths often report an overwhelming sense of grief, as if something unseen is mourning in the shadows. The most infamous spirit said to haunt these woods is that of Amy Robsart, wife of Robert Dudley, a close confidant of Queen Elizabeth I. In 1560, Amy was found dead at the bottom of a staircase under mysterious circumstances. Some say she fell. Others claim she was pushed. Shortly after her death, Dudley is said to have seen her ghost in Wychwood Forest. It is said that if her apparition appears before you, a terrible misfortune will soon follow. But she is not the only spirit bound to these trees. Locals whisper of a phantom carriage that rolls through the forest under the cover of night. Those who have seen it describe a pale driver, his face obscured by a heavy hood. But the most disturbing part? Inside the carriage sit children. Their faces are streaked with tears, their sobs barely audible over the creaking of the wheels. Witnesses claim the moment the carriage disappears into the trees, an unbearable sorrow washes over them, as if they, too, have lost something they cannot remember. Hikers have reported sudden drops in temperature, unseen hands brushing against their shoulders, and the feeling of being followed. One woman, walking alone at dusk, heard the sound of a young girl sobbing. When she turned, there was no one there, only the trees swaying gently in the wind. She continued forward, but the crying grew louder, closer. Then, just as she reached the forest's edge, a voice whispered in her ear, a single, desperate plea. "Don't leave me." Some say the spirits of Wychwood are trapped here, reliving their final moments over and over. Others believe the forest itself remembers. But whatever lingers beneath these trees, one thing is certain. When the sun sets, the weeping begins. And the next haunted forest? It holds something even darker. Haunted Forest number 9, Rendlesham Forest, Suffolk. Some forests are haunted by ghosts of the past. But Rendlesham? This place is haunted by something else entirely. Located in Suffolk, England, Rendlesham Forest is best known as the site of the UK's most famous UFO encounter. But what really happened here? And why do visitors report strange lights, lost time, and an overwhelming sense of being watched? In December 1980, U.S. military personnel stationed at RAF Woodbridge reported seeing unidentified lights descending into the forest. When they investigated, they found a glowing metallic craft, hovering just above the ground. The air felt electric. The trees were bathed in an eerie, pulsating light. One of the men, Sergeant Jim Peniston, claimed he touched the craft, feeling strange symbols etched into its surface. Moments later, the craft vanished without a sound. But the strangest part? He later discovered pages of coded numbers had been burned into his mind. Coordinates leading to locations all over the world, and a message that still baffles researchers to this day. Since that night, countless visitors have reported seeing the same strange lights weaving through the trees. Blue, red, and white orbs moving in unnatural patterns. Some claim their electronics malfunctioned the moment they step into the woods. Phones glitch, compasses spin wildly, cameras fail. One hiker, a skeptic, walked alone into the forest at dusk. As he reached a small clearing, the air around him shifted, as if the atmosphere had thickened. Then, everything went silent. The wind stopped. The distant sounds of birds and rustling leaves vanished. Then, without warning, a blinding flash of light. For what felt like only a few seconds, he stood frozen, paralyzed by something unseen. But when he finally snapped out of it and checked his watch, 30 minutes had passed. Some believe the forest is a gateway, where time bends, reality distorts, and something watches from the dark. Others insist the government knows more than they are telling. But those who have ventured into these woods at night all agree on one thing. Once you step inside, you are not alone. And the next haunted forest? It holds something even more terrifying. Haunted Forest number 10, Miltonrigg Woods, Brampton. Some forests are haunted by ghosts, others by things we can't explain. But in Miltonrigg Woods, something follows you. Deep in Brampton, Cumbria, this dense, winding woodland looks peaceful by day. But at night, visitors speak of an unseen presence, something that mimics footsteps, whispers names, and lingers just out of sight. For years, locals have whispered about the shadow stalker, an entity that lurks among the trees. Those who walk alone here describe the same unsettling experience. First, They hear soft footsteps behind them, keeping pace. Then, a whisper, faint, distant, calling their name. One visitor, a seasoned hiker, brushed off the stories, until he decided to test the legend himself. A walk he'll never forget. It started subtly, a feeling of being watched. Then, the temperature dropped so suddenly that his breath turned to mist. He stopped, listened. The sound of footsteps continued. He turned sharply, nothing there. But as he took another step forward, the footsteps behind him followed. He quickened his pace. The steps matched him. Then, a whisper, so close it sent a chill down his spine. Leave. Panic took over. He ran. The forest felt endless, the trees twisting around him. When he finally reached his car, his hands trembled as he fumbled for the keys. But just before he could drive away, something knocked on his window. Many claim the shadow stalker isn't just a spirit, it's something older. Some say it was once a watcher of the woods, punishing those who trespass. Others believe it's a remnant of something far more sinister. Whatever it is, it never left. And for those who walk these trails at night, one warning remains. If you hear footsteps behind you, don't stop. Haunted Forest Number 11, Cannock Chase Forest, Staffordshire. Deep in Staffordshire's Cannock Chase Forest, visitors have reported one of the most chilling paranormal encounters in the UK. Children with pitch-black eyes. Not just dark, empty, hollow, unnatural. The origins of the nightmare. The stories began in the 1980s, though locals whisper that the hauntings go back much further. Some say these children were victims of a tragic past, perhaps the spirits of those lost in the forest centuries ago. Others connect them to something far darker. The sightings are always the same. A child, pale, silent, and staring. Their eyes, nothing but black voids. And then, they ask for help. One man's encounter. A local cyclist was cutting through the woods just after sunset. The path was empty, until he saw her. A little girl, standing alone in the middle of the trail. Her dress was tattered. Her skin, deathly pale. He stopped, concerned. Then, she lifted her head. Two black, empty sockets where her eyes should have been. She whispered, "Help me." His stomach twisted. Every instinct told him to run, but he couldn't move. Then, her face twisted into something unnatural, a grin too wide. He turned, bolted for his bike. But as he pedaled, he heard her behind him. Running, keeping pace. When he finally reached the main road, he dared to look back. She was gone. But standing deeper in the trees, were more of them. Watching, waiting. Psychics and paranormal investigators believe these beings aren't ghosts in the traditional sense, but something else. A warning, a trick, a presence that should not exist. One thing is certain, if you see one of them, do not speak. Do not follow. And whatever you do not let them in. Haunted Forest Number 12, New Forest, Hampshire. In the heart of Hampshire's New Forest, shadows race between the trees. Not men, not beasts, but something caught between. Phantom horsemen, their spectral mounts charging through the night, have terrified travelers for centuries. And for those who camp beneath the canopy, the nightmare begins when the galloping starts. Founded as a royal hunting ground by William the Conqueror in the 11th century, the New Forest has seen its share of violence, betrayal, and death. Many believe it is cursed. King William II, known as William Rufus, was mysteriously killed here in 1100, an arrow through the chest, fired from the shadows. His death was called an accident, but the whispers said otherwise. Some claim his vengeful spirit still rides, leading a spectral hunt, forever searching for the one who betrayed him. Hikers have spoken of hearing galloping hooves late at night, yet finding no tracks come morning. A group of campers once woke to the sound of snorting horses circling their tents, the earth shaking beneath them. They unzipped the tent flaps, expecting to see an angry rider. But there was nothing. No hoof prints. No horses. Just the lingering scent of burning wood and damp leather. One man, traveling alone at dusk, recalled feeling watched. Then, out of nowhere, a rush of wind, the crack of a whip, and the sound of hooves tearing through the trees. He turned, heart pounding, just in time to see a rider in black armor, his face hidden beneath a tattered hood. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it was gone. But as he stood frozen, he heard a voice, low, guttural, whispering right in his ear. "Run! Is it the ghost of William Rufus, still searching for vengeance? Or is the forest home to something older, something drawn to those who enter after dark? One thing is certain. If you hear who's approaching, don't wait to see who's riding." Haunted Forest number 13, Thetford Forest, Norfolk. The Whispering Mist. It doesn't just creep in, it calls to you. Deep in Norfolk's Thetford Forest, a strange fog slithers through the trees. But this isn't ordinary mist. It moves against the wind. It whispers. And those who step into it, sometimes don't step out the same. Once part of an ancient, sprawling woodland, Thetford Forest has long been a place of disappearances and unease. Legends tell of a forgotten village, swallowed by time and nature, whose people simply vanished. Travelers spoke of hearing voices in the trees, calling to them in familiar tones, the voices of loved ones, of the dead. During World War II, soldiers stationed nearby reported strange, glowing fog creeping through their barracks, filling their minds with visions of shadowy figures and distant screams. Hikers have stumbled into the mist, only to emerge hours later with no memory of where they've been. Some claim they were only lost for minutes, until they checked their phones and realized whole nights had passed. One camper recalled waking up to find the forest eerily still. The air was thick with a damp, gray fog. Then came the whispers, low, indecipherable, surrounding him. He turned toward the sound, and saw a figure standing deep in the mist. Tall, unmoving, watching. Then, just as suddenly, the mist cleared, and the figure was gone. One of the most terrifying reports comes from a woman who went walking alone at dusk. The mist rolled in without warning. It clung to her skin, cold and suffocating. Then, she heard it, a voice, soft, familiar, calling her name. She spun around, expecting to see a friend, but she was alone. Then the voice came again, closer, right beside her ear. "Come closer." She ran, but the mist ran with her. By the time she found her way back to the road, her phone showed nearly 3 hours had passed. To her, it had only felt like minutes. A lost village calling its people home? Spirits of the vanished, searching for company? Or something older, hidden within the mist, waiting for the next visitor to lose their way? One thing is certain. If the mist finds you, don't listen to the voices. Haunted Forest number 14, Akigahara Forest, Scotland. Some places hold sadness like a wound that never heals. Deep in the Scottish Highlands, Akigahara Forest, also known as Scotland's Suicide Forest, has gained a chilling reputation. A place of despair. A place where people go and are never seen again. Local records stretch back centuries, telling of people who wandered into the forest and were swallowed by the trees. Some were fleeing war, others running from debts or disgrace. But many, too many, were never found. Hikers have discovered abandoned belongings deep in the woods, clothes folded neatly on the ground, photographs pinned to trees, even handwritten notes pleading for forgiveness. No one knows exactly how many have been lost here, but the numbers climb every year. Visitors speak of an overwhelming sense of sorrow the moment they step beneath the twisted branches. Some describe a pressure in their chest, as if something unseen is weighing them down. Others feel a sudden, unshakable urge to leave, before it's too late. One man, an experienced hiker, recalled feeling watched. The deeper he walked, the stronger it became. A shadow in his peripheral vision. A whisper just out of reach. Then, he saw them. Figures, motionless, standing between the trees, their faces blurred by the dim light. When he blinked, they were gone. One of the most terrifying reports comes from a local search and rescue worker who was called in to investigate the disappearance of a young woman. Her friends had set up camp at the forest's edge. She had wandered off alone at dusk and never returned. The search team found her belongings, a backpack, a phone with a dead battery, a journal left open on the forest floor. But there was no sign of her. Only one thing stood out. The last entry in her journal. 4 simple words, scrawled in shaking handwriting. "They don't want me to leave." To this day, she has never been found. Some believe the spirits of the lost linger here, trapped between worlds. Others say the forest itself is hungry, calling to those who are already broken, pulling them deeper into the dark. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain. If you ever find yourself in Akigahara Forest, and you feel the weight of sadness pressing in, if you hear voices whispering your name, leave, before they decide you belong there too. Haunted Forest Number 15, Shiningcliffe Woods, Derbyshire. Some ghosts linger in whispers, in shadows, but others come charging straight at you. Tucked away in Derbyshire, Shiningcliffe Woods may look peaceful by day, but when the sun sets, something stirs among the trees. A phantom figure, mounted on a black steed, riding fast through the mist, yet missing one crucial thing: its head. The story dates back to the 1600s, when a ruthless nobleman, known only as Lord Henshaw, ruled over the land. He was a man feared by his own people, known for his cruelty, his swift punishments, and his unrelenting pursuit of power. But his reign came to a brutal end. One stormy night, an ambush was laid on the forest road. Outlaws attacked, dragging him from his horse. His terrified screams echoed through the trees, only to be silenced by a swift stroke of a blade. His severed head was taken as a warning to others. But his body, it was left behind, slumped over his fallen horse, as the storm raged on. Locals say his soul never left. Many who wander the forest after dusk report hearing something, the distant sound of hooves pounding through the undergrowth. Some say they've seen a rider cloaked in shadow, his tattered cape billowing as he charges past, headless. A group of campers once described waking up to the thunderous gallop of a horse just outside their tent. When they unzipped the flap, the woods were silent, empty, except for a thick, swirling mist creeping along the ground. One man, a skeptic, decided to call out, "Who's there?" The answer came as a rush of wind, a cold so sharp it burned. Then, right by his ear, the sound of heavy breathing. He swore. For a brief, terrifying moment, he felt something standing right behind him. But when he turned, there was nothing there. But the most chilling tale of all? A woman walking home through the woods at twilight spotted a figure on horseback up ahead. She assumed it was just a late rider returning home, until she noticed something wrong. The man's posture was stiff, unnatural, his grip on the reins too tight. Then, as he turned towards her, she saw the truth. There was no head. Frozen in place, she could only watch as the spectral rider suddenly reared up on his horse and vanished into the mist. To this day, those who walk through Shiningcliffe Woods after dark are warned. If you hear hooves in the distance, don't stop. Don't look back. And whatever you do, don't call out. Because if the rider notices you, he might just decide he's not the only one who should be missing a head. They say the most terrifying thing about these forests isn't the stories we've told tonight. It's what we haven't discovered yet. Think about it. How many footsteps have disappeared into the darkness, never to return? How many ghostly whispers drift through the trees, waiting for someone, anyone, to listen? Some say the spirits only reveal themselves to those who believe. Others claim they lurk in the silence, watching, waiting, choosing their next visitor to leave with a story they'll never forget. But the real question is, what happens when you step into the woods alone? Because the moment you do, you might not be alone anymore. If you love Real Ghost Stories, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Real Ghost Stories channel for more terrifying content. Tell us in the comments. Have you ever had a chilling paranormal experience? Or do you know of a haunted forest we should cover next? Share this with a friend who loves ghost stories, if they dare. And remember, the next time you step into the woods, listen carefully, because something might be listening to you.